attachments in Discord. I hate them so fucking much. There we go. Well, not attachments, but you know when you're posting the link and it's sending the... Yeah. Yes. Whatever. Anyways. And it's sending the description of this link. Yeah. Link. Yeah, I made the notifications. So... Hello, Kani! Today we're going to play this game. It's not really well known, and by not well known, I will say there is zero fucking anything about this game. Like there is no Let's Plays even. The only known Let's Plays of the game is like one and with really obnoxious dude with like 3 subscribers or so. And it's really a shame because it's by the creator of .flow. Yeah, it's by creator of .flow, and it's really well made in my opinion. Like, I can't even understand what this game is about. I never could understand, but even then, it was something about it impressed me really much. I don't know why. I don't know what, but something about it did. And the music in this game is really good. That's, yeah. First of all, I remember this game for having extremely well-made sound design, and really interesting sound design. So for some reason, I couldn't forget it as much as I played it like several years ago. And I want to replay it on stream. The plot there, well, it's really weird. How's audio levels? It's really important because this game has really good audio. Yes, perhaps it was 1 week before MILYA passed away. The reason I say perhaps is because I wasn't there, so I don't exactly understand how it happened. All I've heard from friends is that the death's cause was suicide, and that it was very violent. I will put it a little bit less loud. Because this game is known for, like, from what I know, from what I remember it, and why I remembered it so well, because how well audio is played in this game, like how the design of audio is made. Okay. The gameplay is similar to Cat Lady, but without any gameplay, like you just walk. MILYA and I were childhood friends. Since the time we were little, because our houses were next to each other, we often played together. That poor girl, who was born with only one eye, often depended on me, and I answered to her just as often. I'll make the sound a bit less loud. Oh wait! Yeah, like this. Yes, it was as if we were like true sisters. Now it should be fine, audio-wise. Last time we met was about 3 weeks before she passed away. That day I made a promise that I would meet MILYA at the cafe. That place was always so quiet. During the times we met were there together, we always stayed for a long time at the cafe, chatting restfully while drinking black tea. The cafe was inside a forest and built in a quiet place. Since people hardly visited with the exception of ourselves, we often enjoyed ourselves there. Yeah, like the character and the aesthetics of this game. One day, while I was treading slightly through a basement, I caught a foot on a large tree root and accidentally fell down. There was a sharp rock over the floor, and so when I tripped, I cut large gash on the palm of my hand. It will be problematic if I left traces of blood on the ground, and since the blood did not stop even if I suppressed it with my hand, I took off my coat and pressed it to the open wound. After walking for a short time, I arrived at the usual cafe. It was dazzling that day, so I hurriedly went inside. Now, MILYA broken is the second part, but you see, there is an issue with second part. It's translated by the creator, and creator doesn't know English, so that mechanical translation. And to me, one of the best parts of this game is how deranged the words are, and it doesn't work when it's poorly translated, So I kind of thinking of translating it myself one day, but it's a Unity game. I don't know how to translate Unity games. The interior of the cafe was strangely gloomy, and tepid sound of the rain was being mixed with the sound of огонек coming from the gramophone. Somehow the air felt listless, as if there were no sense of reality there. Melancholy filled the air of the place. She was there in the very center of this room. I took off the coat I was wearing and hung it on the hanger on the wall, and sat down in a seat opposite to her. She was drinking her black tea idly and seemed to be brooding over something, with seemingly a languid look in her face and her chin resting in the left hand. She placed her teacup next to her mouth slowly, and the lips parted to say, "Доброе утро." It was created by Japanese people, though. The person, though. As I hung my hand and looked down, a weak groan arose. The remaining blood frothed in small bubbles in my mouth. It slowly tricked from my lips, and I felt it gently caress at the nape of my neck. She raised her unblinking eyes to me, and laughed with what felt like extreme delight. After she laughed for some time, she poured black tea in my cup and gave me a portion of jam. When she drank black tea, she always took strawberry jam with it, and on cold days she drank it with small amounts of vodka. That day was particularly cold, so I think she may have poured a little too much vodka. It seems like she could sense her face gradually tinting red as she drank. Maybe it's because of that, but we talked about things way more than we usually did that day. About school, about pastimes, about tea, and then about MILYA. She laughed elegantly, with her hand hovering her mouth, and her eyes somehow appeared to be blazing and sparkling. I wonder how much time did we spend talking. The forest was already becoming engulfed by darkness, and only dim lights illuminated our surroundings. Before we knew, the music coming from the gramophone had stopped, and the inside of the cafe became wrapped by silence. Her face, basked by moonlight as she tumbled up below the desk, shined ominously as if her skin was wet. It happened suddenly when we were preparing to leave. From the depths of the cafe, we could hear ominous sounds, as if something was being dragged along the ground. I felt a vague sense of apprehension. After all, since there wasn't anyone else here but me, and there shouldn't be any other sound but my own. I placed my bloody-covered coat on the table, and started to move my feet towards the back of the building. And the inside of the cafe was oddly gloomy and grown resonant throughout, mixing with the noise of огонек flowing from the gramophone. The atmosphere had become something different. She grabbed my shoulders with her trembling hands, and with anxious voice she said, "Please stop." And yet stopping was something I couldn't do, because after all, I cared so deeply for those moist, beery eyes of her. The odd groans continued unchanged. On the contrary, it seems as if they were getting more and more intense instead. As I listened carefully to this voice, I realized the sound was coming from the basement. I could never have guessed this place had a basement, neither that somebody would actually be there. A bad premonition ran through as a shiver ran down my spine. Kind of visual novel. I'm not sure. I find it hard to categorize in genres. Those kinds of games, you know. The way to basement was deep inside the building. It was hidden on its oldest, darkest place. Since I wasn't born with only one eye, I stepped carefully among dark and headed down to the basement. Then it happened I quietly opened the door. Suddenly I felt something cold on the nape of my neck, very gently. As you see, in the story, there is a lot of details that are kind of repeating. That's the thing, like, it's kind of hard to understand what's going on with the story. Like, for instance, isn't she trapped in the basement? Like, according to the story you said previously, she was trapped in the basement and, slashed her hands there. And after she slashed her hand, the blood also came to the nape of her neck. Like, a lot of this, parts of the story are continuing, but in kind of, demented manner, in a way that there is no coherent story, in a way. But there's details that are repeating over and over, in different circumstances that don't make sense together, especially chronological one. And I realized it had started raining. I raised my head in surprise as the drops ran through my back, only to find the sky hidden by clouds. The forest was dark, the sky was grey, and the rain was white. The sky looked incredibly gloomy, as if the rain had drained all the color out of it. Since when, I wonder, had my eyes stopped reflecting any color? In this world where colors had faded away, the only color reflected by my eyes was red, the red of blood. Even now, the image is burned freshly in my mind. That girl with her throat torn apart, blinded in agony onto a chair. Binded in agony onto the chair. Sorry, my bad pronunciation of stuff I can't read. For a while I was dumbfounded. The sound of something being dragged seemed to change gradually, so harsh and unpleasant. And that sound mixing together with the footfalls. The worst thing was that I could hear it coming from behind me. I felt pain, as if something had seized my heart tightly, and my head flushed deep red. I didn't know whether or not someone was about to catch me. I immediately decided to run away as fast as possible, and I grabbed her hand. As you see, like by the plot chronologically, it seems like MILYA already died, and yet she's still talking as if new stuff is happening, and that, like, by the composition, plot composition, it seems really interesting to me. Like, I'm a huge fan. Thank you, I will. By the plot composition, it seems really interesting to me because it's really rare to see non-chronological story, in a way, and I like non-chronological stories. And in this case, like, you can't even tell what was going on. Maybe it was due to the light on her back, but I couldn't see her face clearly as she looked straight into my eyes. Her abnormal white skin, her short, evenly cut black hair, her slender body, so fragile it could break, that was elegantly draped in a dress, that charm of hers that felt so dangerous, and yet, I'm sure that there was a smile, like a fixed twitch on her face, hidden on her expression. Notice where the dialogue appeared. Like, such a nice touch, like As you see, probably the description of MILYA fits the main character right now. Well, it fits the main character right now, but when the face was described, notice that this panel appeared when the face was covered by a red flower. So, like, we couldn't, if we didn't remember how the face looked like, then we wouldn't think that that's actually her. So probably the main character in MILYA is the same person. And we also know that MILYA was killed by suicide. So, and yet main character is describing MILYA as something not her, basically. Which is interesting. She looked down and she kept her face low, groaned and quiet tone, Dobra utra. Following the rhythm of her groans, blood bubbles formed on my throat, then slipped downwards, slowly, and I felt them pulling in my chest. She slowly picked up my head and pushed her lips on the very tip of it. That tenderness. I don't understand how the face is working. I don't think it's working. Those unpleasant footsteps started to approach us again. I thought that before long I'd get killed just like her. I picked my edge tool from the ground, hid behind the door, and held my breath. And then the footsteps were right in front of me, jumped vigorously out of the darkness, and swung down the blade. Once again, a lot of those dialogues are appearing when the face is covered, which is interesting touch. I slowly pressed the blade against the throat. When the blade started sinking in the flesh, the cry slowly became a moan. It'd be troublesome if the person died, so I took my coat off and pressed it against the wound. Suddenly all of front of my eyes turned red. The blood gushed out vigorously, covering my face. It felt so scared, so I rushed out of the store as soon as I could. I left the store promptly, running through the basement. I fell over many times, but blood was coming out from the wounds in my head. And when I got home, I hid inside my sheets, trembling as I waited for morning to come, wondering if those footsteps would follow me, wondering if they could come and attack me. And yet nothing happened. So, the character is hearing a lot of footsteps all the time, I guess. And thus a week passed. Then I heard that MILYA had died. Once again. Inconsistencies in the storytelling. She already said that the MILYA died before her eyes. She saw her dying. And yet there is a New Testament. Like all of those testaments are describing the same situation, but from not only from different sides, but also from the sides that don't make sense. Like it's impossible to make sense out of them. And apparently it was such a brutal incident it wasn't possible to identify her. She was so deformed her face didn't even look like one anymore. She died with a twitched grin, as if she just managed to understand what had happened, mere seconds before she passed away. Yes, there's nothing further to say about MILYA. I won't say anything more. So then, please let me meet with her already. I'm her friend, after all. It's because of you that I've been talking up until now. We are your MILYA. Yes, let's meet again on that cafe. And that's not the end. That's not the end. Milachka, happy birthday. And that's not the end. Milachka, happy birthday, made the story for you. Milachka, it's okay if you only listen. It's okay if you only listen to our story while you walk. This game looks like Cat Lady. Yeah, it does. It's more deranged than it, though. I want MILYA to always smile and always surprise everybody. I want to see your happy face. Everybody loves you. Everybody wants to see you already. I wrote you a letter, so no matter where you are, or even if you have no ears, I will reach to you. It's okay if you can't walk. I wonder where you are right now. I guess you have a reluctant look on your face, but whenever you are, I'll be next to you with my hands here. We will be always together inside the forest or even below the ground. Girlfriends. I can't remember your face as good as I wish, but it probably is because I couldn't see it from the very start. It doesn't matter if you don't have ears. I am here. We're telling a story for you. We will be always waiting for you in that cafe. We want to see you already. Look that. Notice that the person is changed. Like it's now a multiple first person. Like it's not I. It's we. I wonder if that says something. Happy birthday. I've already seen this one. And this game is repeating over and over. Yeah, and the manner of speaking is changed. Yeah. Sometimes it's refreshing the old dialogues. Sometimes, yes, perhaps it was 3 weeks before MILYA passed away. The reason I say perhaps is because I wasn't there, so I don't exactly understand how it happened. Yeah, so someone has passed away, and we know that that's not a main character, even though they look alike. Because if the main character committed suicide, and then who would be telling the evidence? Like who would be? And also, it's been 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks. Yeah, and the reason I say perhaps, maybe that's and she was giving the testimony to the Kurt, I guess. All I've heard was from our friends is that the death caused the accident. You see, it changed again. It was the cause was suicide. Now it's the cause is accident, and that it was very violent. And we're in the same scene as the first one. MILYA and I were childhood friends since the time we were little because our houses were next to each other. We often played together. That poor girl who was born with only one hand, it was one eye, often depended on me and answered to her just as often. Yes, it was as if we were like 3 sisters. Last time we met was about 3 weeks before she passed away. That time, I made a promise that I would meet MILYA at a cafe. The place was always so quiet. During times we met there together, we always stayed for a long time at the cafe, chatting restfully while drinking black tea. The cafe was inside a forest. It was built in a quiet place, since people hardly visited it with the exception of ourselves. We often enjoyed ourselves there. Yeah, like, how much details would you pick that changed? One day, while I was treading lightly through the back street, I caught a foot on a large tree root and accidentally fell down. There was a sharp rock over the floor, so when I tripped, I cut a large gash on the palm of my hand. It would be problematic if I left traces of blood on the ground, and since the blood did not stop even if I suppressed it with my head, I took off my coat and pressed it to the open wound. It's the same as the first time. So far, this part. After walking for a short time, I arrived at the usual cafe. It was drizzling this day, so I hurriedly went inside. The interior of the cafe was strangely gloomy, and the tepid sound of rain was being mixed with the sound of Chloronier. I don't know what is this. The name of the piece on the background changed. Черные. Черные. Okay. It's hard to read the Cyrillic things in Latin. Coming from the gramophone, somehow the air felt listless, as if there was no sense of reality there. Melancholy filled the air of the place. She was there, in the very center of this room. I took off the coat I was wearing and hung it on the hanger on the wall, and then sat down in the seat opposite of her. She was drinking her black tea idly and seemed to be brooding over something. There was a seemingly languid look on her face and her chin resting in her left hand. She placed her teacup next to her mouth slowly, and then lips parted to say "Доброе утро." Let's see what we can read. Для Milya-chan. Fuck, I can't. It's kind of hard to read because the text is overlapping. And most likely it's machinal translation, so we'll have to put in extremely misunderstanding of Russian. Oh, whole shit. As I hung my head and looked down, a weak groan arose. The remaining blood, like you see, all the time, it gets to the time of death. We don't see the middle part. We can't read, like, it's if everything cuts and gets to the death. Like, it is a loop, but we don't know what happened, after she cut the hand and before the actual death. Like, it's always cuts in this part. The remaining blood floated in small bottles in my mouth. It slowly tricked from my lips. Like, we don't know what got to this part, basically. We don't know what made the blood appear from her mouth. And I felt it gently caress the nape of my neck. She raised her unblinking eyes up to me and laughed with what felt like extreme delight. And after she laughed for some time, she poured black tea in my cup and gave me a portion of jam. As if, like you see, and then it's kind of like repeating to the old story before the cuts. Before the calm, like after she laughed for some time, but as if it's not the continuation of what we heard a sentence ago, but it's a continuation of what we heard before the cuts and the change of music and sounds. She poured black tea in my cup and gave me a portion of jam, because there's no way someone would give a portion of jam and black tea to the person who is fucking bleeding from their mouth. When she drank black tea, she always took grape jam with it. It was other kind of jam, but I don't remember which one. And on cold days, she drank it with a small amount of vodka. That day was particularly cold, so I think she may have poured a little too much vodka. It seems she could sense her face gradually tinting red as she drank. Maybe it's because of that, but we talked about things way more than we usually did that day. About school, about pastimes, about tea, and then about Milya. She laughed elegantly with her hand covering her mouth, and her eyes somehow appeared to be blazing and sparkling. I wonder how much time did we spend talking. The forest was already becoming engulfed by darkness, and only dim lights illuminated our surroundings. Before we knew, the music coming from the gramophone had stopped, and the inside of the cafe became wrapped by silence. Her face, bathed by moonlight as she tumbled before the desk, shined ominously as if her skin was wet. It happened suddenly when we were preparing to leave. From the depths of the cafe we could hear ominous sounds, as if something was being dragged along the ground. I felt a vague sense of apprehension. After all, since there wasn't anyone here but me, there shouldn't be any other sound but my own. Once again, she is with Milya, and yet she says there's no one but me. There's no one but me here, and yet I can feel I can hear someone being drugged. Interesting. I placed my blood-covered coat on the table, and I started to move my feet towards the back of the building. The inside of the cafe was oddly gloomy, and groan resonated throughout, and mixing with the noise of chorne following from the gramophone. The atmosphere had become something different. She grabbed my shoulder with her trembling hands, and with anxious words she said, "Please stop." And yet, stopping was something I couldn't do, because after all I cared so deeply for those moist, bleary eyes of her. And odd groans continued unchanged. On the contrary, it seemed as if they were getting more and more intense instead. As I listened carefully to the voice, I realized the sound was coming from the basement. I could have never guessed the place had a basement. Either way, somebody would actually be there. A dread premonition ran as a shiver ran down my spine. The way to the basement was deep inside the building, and it was hidden in the oldest, darkest place. Since I wasn't born with only one hand, I stepped carefully among the dark and headed down the basement. Then it happened, and when I quietly opened the door, suddenly I felt something cold on the nape of my neck, very gently. And I realized that it started raining. I raised my head in surprise as the drops ran through my back, only to find the sky hidden by the clouds. The forest was dark, the sky was grey, and the rain was white. The sky looked incredibly gloomy, as if the rain had drained all the color out of it. Since when, I wonder, have my eyes stopped reflecting any color? In this world, when the colors had faded away, the only color reflected by my eyes was red, the red of blood. Even now, the image is burned fleshly in my mind, that girl with her throat torn apart, binded in agony onto a chair. Okay, hell, I can't read. For a while I was dumbfounded. The sound of something being dragged seemed to change gradually, so harsh and unpleasant. And that sound mixing together with footfalls. The worst thing was that I could hear it coming from behind me. I felt pain as if something had seized my heart tightly, and my head flushed deep red. I didn't know whether or not someone was about to catch me. I immediately decided to run away as fast as possible, and I grabbed her hand. ETI? What do you want to say by this? Hello, Jenny's. Let's see if it will say above the face again. Maybe it was due to the lights of the bag, but I couldn't see her face clearly. Yeah, it would be the same dialogue. And she looked straight into my eyes. At number 3, English. Yeah. Her abnormal white skin and short, evenly cut black hair. Her slender body so fragile it could break. It was elegantly draped in the dress. The charm of hers felt so dangerous. The stream is my bedtime story. It is a compliment. Yeah, it is kind of a bedtime story. And yet I'm sure there was a smile, like a fixed twitch on her face, hidden in her expression. She looked down and, as she kept her face low, groaned in a quiet tone, Dobre utra. Following the rhythm of her groans, blood bubbles formed on my throat, then slipped downward slowly, and I felt them pulling on my chest. She slowly picked up my hand and pushed her lips on the very tip of it, that tenderness. Those unpleasant footsteps started to approach us again. I thought that before long I'd get killed just like her, even though it was her throat that was slit. I packed an edged tool from the ground, hid behind the door, and held my breath. And then the footsteps were right in front of me. I jumped vigorously out of the darkness and swung down the blades. I slowly pressed the blades against his throat. When the blades started sinking in the flesh, the cry slowly became a moan. It was troublesome when the person died, so I took my coat off and pressed it against the wound. Suddenly, all in front of my eyes turned red. The blood gushed out vigorously, covering my face. I felt really scared, so I rushed out of the store as soon as I could. Out of the store, it was a cafe. I left the store promptly, running through the back street. I fell over many times, and the blood was coming out from the wounds in my hand. And when I got home, I hid inside my sheets, trembling as I waited till morning to come. I'm wondering if those footsteps would follow me, wondering if they would come and attack me. And yet, nothing happened. Maybe, it may as well be for me, since I'm the verge of blacking out or working myself with unsolvable problems. You can do this, Jen, yeah. I know that this week and last week were really problematic to you, but eventually, if you try one time, you'll find what you want. Or maybe you could try different approach, I don't know. Maybe you could try, searching a job if it's about the job, different way. Maybe it would help more. Thus a week passed, and I heard that MILYA had died. And apparently it's such a brutal incident, it wasn't possible to identify her. So she deformed her face. She was so deformed, her face didn't even look like one anymore. She died with a twitched grin, as if she just managed to understand what had happened mere seconds before she passed away. Yes, there was nothing further to say about MILYA. I won't say anything more. So then, please let me witness her already. I'm her friend, after all. It's because of you that I've been talking up until now. We're your... MILYA. Yes, let's meet again on that cafe. Milochka, happy birthday. I'm talking on your behalf. I'm talking to everyone about you. And this one is new. And also, I'm talking on your behalf. So maybe, like after the death of MILYA, the main character started, cosplaying MILYA or something. Or maybe it wasn't MILYA that died, but the main character, and then they switched places. I can feel you being born. I can feel you growing bigger. This real feeling inside of me feels so pleasant. You're still fondling me, aren't you? With your arms, your fingers, your mouth, your tongue. It's why nothing left important. I've been overworking myself with project lately. My sleep is too broken to search job right now. Something I'm trying to fix now. Yeah, I understand. Sometimes it's really, you're so motivated to work on personal projects that you forget everything else. It happens. Every time you touch my body, every time I feel that sensation, I feel more and more in love. I feel more and more in love with you. And yet I can't remember your face. It's so irritating, so painful. I feel overwhelmed by complex feelings. And all I can think of is you. So yeah, my theory is that she's impersonating MILYA. And the reason my face is like this is because... or maybe no, kind of hard to tell. If I could just touch you, I'm sure my hands would extend towards your cheek first. If you were to look around, you'd see everybody craving for her, just like me, going somewhere. And everybody craving for her looks exactly like main character, as you see in the background. Are you wondering where those feet of mine are heading? I'm sure they're moving on their own to meet you. As I talk of your story once again, their girly features, as they do nothing but walk. Figures, I guess. Look so beautiful and yet so empty. They just look exactly like your face. Mia seems. I am your friend. We are your friends. We are now heading to see you. The end of the recording. Yeah, it's from the same person who made that flow. Dot question mark. Cafe inside the forest. I'm sorry, I don't really know much about such a thing. Okay, let's see how story changed this time. But I've heard my friends talking something like that. Somehow, such a strange story, I still remember some parts of it. I couldn't really understand what they were talking about. They said things like, what did the groaning look like? And what did her face look like? Her name, let's see, what was it? How strange, even though it's the name of my friend. We've known each other since we were small children. Her body was slender and her skin was so pale. She was such a pretty girl and she looked like gorgeous in her dresses. I wonder what's wrong with me. I can't remember her face, the face of my friend. No, it's... in the first place, I've never seen her face. She actually might not have ever had a face. When I finally had a look at her, but then nothing about it made any sense. It's kind of like this story. It looks beautiful, but there is no essence in it. And when you finally look at it, it doesn't make any sense. Army chat, so many swords, not a single shield. Although she was my friend, her name... Yes, her name was MILYA. MILYA. That's a flower. In last part of the story, we walked into this flower. Yes, my friend. That's the story of my friend MILYA. Oh, you were here, MILYA. Amelia. I think I'm talking on your behalf. I'm talking to everyone about you. Amelia. Well, I think I've heard the name MILYA in, like, you know, where I live. I just don't know what would be the full one. I can feel it being born. I can feel you growing bigger. The wriggling feeling inside of me feels so pleasant. You're still fond of me, aren't you? With your arms, your fingers, your mouth, your tongue. Every time you touch my body, every time I feel that sensation, I feel more and more in love with you. And yet I can't remember your face. It's so irritating, so painful. I feel overwhelmed by complex feelings, and all I can think of is you. If I could just touch you, I'm sure my hands would extend towards your cheeks first. If you were to look around, you'd see everybody craving for you, just like me, going somewhere. Are you wondering where those feet of mine are heading? I'm sure they're moving on their own to meet you. Ooh. Nice. As I talk of my story once again, their girly figures, as they do nothing but walk. Look so beautiful and yet so empty. They look like exactly like your face. I'm your friends. We are your friends. We are now heading to see you. Yeah, it ends on the same part as previous one. Regarding any further intervention should be avoided. I think our attitude when addressing this problem is overly optimistic. I suppose you people will think about that building as a haunted place. That's a new location, I think. I suppose there's people who sneered when they saw the flustered reaction of the field investigators. You can argue it was temporary paranoia caused by confusion. If that were the case, so be it. My concerns are centered on the improve on the health of the responsibilities for and the obvious signs of symptoms. Maybe it's then some kind of illness. Considering that, please forsake what I'm saying. Do you really think the phenomena observed during the recent weeks is nothing but mass paranoia? I'm certain the people who first displayed those symptoms did not enter inside the cafe, and they were not told any information regarding that place in the talks. When that is considered, it's clear that something abnormal is occurring. I'm convinced the settling of in our brains has started. Please, listen carefully to what I'm saying. I'm not telling any jokes. I think our attitude when addressing this problem is overly optimistic. I'm certain people who first displayed those symptoms did not enter inside the cafe. She is observing us. We didn't enter inside that cafe. She is eating us, like a maggot crawling inside a rotten brain. I don't want to know any more than this about her. Are you listening? Please pay attention to this before she devours all of my thoughts. Are you listening? I'm talking on your behalf. I'm talking to everyone about you. Listen, listen. Maybe it's mass paranoia to connect to the people walking like me. Yeah, maybe. And like impersonating, like maybe some kind of maybe people are impersonating the main character, and I don't know. Yeah, we already read this. It does seem mass, like it's not only main characters, there's a lot of main character, and some of them are not representing the some of them are not represented by this exact figure, because sometimes and this is like all of the iteration we walked on this cutscene. Ping pong, ping pong. Yeah, maybe the reason of changing stories in the first place is because of different yeah, maybe. But then different main character experiencing the same story with just slightly different details. It's kind of interesting. Okay. And who is two squares? I kind of wonder. It seems like it's either the name of this paranoia or real name of MILYA, or a name of the whoever main character is right now. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. What if it's police investigation and different people say different... Yeah, maybe, but they say, you know, the story seems the same. And it seems like they were there personally. Oh, you know what? Out of the main character stories, like, one was she only had one eye, and other one she only had one arm, right? What if there were two characters, you know, and they were looking at each other, and from the perspective of first character, one had one eye, and from perspective of second character, one had one arm. As about background music, I guess, I'm not sure about the background music change. But yeah, if they're kind of reflecting each other, but not really. And one of them got killed. But then, how come both of them could give the testimony? Yeah. Oh shit! I think it's going faster. Okay, let's be there for like 1 minute or so. Maybe something will change. I have a feeling that it might. But I think I haven't seen this cutscene. Pew, pew, pew. Wow. Look at that. Look at that. That is my trash pile. This twitching shit. Please calm down your trash, it's twitching. It's kind of unnerving. It says it wants me to hallucinate. Yes, as you know, I am. I do in fact want you to hallucinate. Mold is alive. It's covering the screen. This mold. Or maybe it's dirt. Okay, I think that, yeah, nothing's changed. Yes, thank you very much. About the cafe. That cafe, something about it always felt odd. It wasn't because there was never anyone there or because it was gloomy. It just felt like something would creep inside at any moment. It wasn't some sensation in my body and my mind. Yeah, it was more like a déjà vu. Occasional felt said déjà vu being closer and closer to happening. Also, it felt like something unthinkably disgusting. It was that kind of feeling. I went to that establishment only a few days ago. I heard from my friend something about a cafe existing inside of a forest. That friend? Nothing special, just my friend. I don't know how she came to know about that cafe. She said it was a rumor, but I've never heard of such a rumor from people other than her. Still, that rumor turned out to be real, and that cafe really was inside of the forest. Although it was still daytime, inside it looked so dark and much older than what I've been told. I could hear music playing softly. In my memory, it doesn't feel I think it was Aganyok. I had the impression that someone had been there, just until a while ago. Aganyok, so like in the first iteration. She slowly hung the coat she had worn on the wall hook and sat down on a chair in the center of the cafe. Then she skillfully brewed some black tea and poured some to me. When she drank black tea, she always took apple jam with it. Yeah, apple jam, not moi dis alive. What? She always took apple jam, like first iteration. Second iteration was a chorny and grape jam. And on cold days, she drank it with small amounts of vodka. Hello, Zelene. Excuse me? Yes, sir. I'm talking about my friend. We were only 2 people who had come to that cafe. Is something the matter? Для Миля-чан. Миля, с днем рождения. Просто только что приятно слушать. Всегда смеются как... I can't fucking read. Он находится вдоль нашего... Каждый из... Fucking hell, it's so hard to read. I like this lady's haircut a lot. Yeah, it's real nice. I agree. That's right, yes. After we spent a few moments talking, we heard some weird sounds. As if something heavy was being dragged around. And groans. They were coming further inside the building. When we heard that groan, I suddenly started to feel so terrible. I was preparing to leave, but she started heading inside. I could hear that groan gradually becoming more intense, just like cries. For some reason, I couldn't see her face well as she started to advance towards her inner part of the cafe. Even now, I still can't see her face. As we followed the groan, I found a door that went down to the basement. And when I did, a weird smell filled my nostrils. It was like fragrance of flowers, but it also stinked like rust. It was a very strange smell. There seemed to be someone inside the room. Then I stepped forward. It happened. A pain ran through my shoulder. So I guess that's the footsteps that the main character in the first story heard and stabbed the person coming. Somebody had stabbed a knife in my back. I fell onto the floor, surprised. She extended her hand and touched my cheek. And then she said, "Доброе утро." I got scared and I untangled her arms and escaped from the room, and then I ran away. And then a week later, I heard she died. Apparently it was such a brutal incident, it wasn't possible to identify her. She was so deformed, her face didn't even look like one anymore. Well, if the face is deformed, it could be literally anyone. You know what they say in detective stories? If the face is deformed or the head is cut, it's impossible to, to define anyone. It's the truth. I'm not lying. I'm speaking on her behalf. I'm not lying. But I still this. Milya. Yes, let's meet again in that cafe. The sound design, holy shit, it's so good. Like, Milashka, happy birthday. Kinda wonder what birthday has to do with it. Maybe... Maybe... what's happening is considered a birthday. Yes, perhaps it was 1 week before Milya passed away. A reason I say perhaps because I wasn't there, so I don't exactly understand how it is happened. All I have heard from our friends is that the death cause was an accident, and that was very violent. That's probably the first story would be. Let's see. Yeah, that's first story. There's only one eye. Yes, that's literally the first story. Let's see. Maybe first because she escaped and started a new life. Ah, yeah, like person is escaping, starting a new life, but they keep following, like keep heading towards, I don't know, mass paranoia or something. Interesting. In love it's unknown types of week. Promised that I would meet MILYA in cafe. Yeah. Like I was inside the forest, but I often enjoyed ourselves here. Okay. Back straight. And straight like a launch. Surprised that I took off my home. And kill Big Brain. Yeah. Alright, unusual cafe. Неделька. Cafe started to glow, and the tepid sound of rave was mixed with the sound of Неделька coming from the gramophone. Melancholy, yeah. Some things are different, but it's more like first story. We're brooding or something, team Dana. Привет. Now it's not Доброе утро, it's Привет. And also, is it me or text wasn't red? It was just black, I think. But now it's red. More like insane. Yeah, that's the right. And we grown a rose. The mighty ball. Yeah. The story cuts. It was red, but the paper was dirty. Yeah, right. And after she loved portion of jam, apple jam. So like first time. And too much vodka. She drank. Always red. Okay. I don't know if that game has ending. I'm going to be honest. I don't know. Because like I said, there is no walkthrough. Oh. And a number of voice resonant is rough mixing with the noise of Nedelka. Coming from the atmosphere becomes someone different. She grabbed her, please stop. And yet stopping was something I couldn't do. Because after all I could yeah. What was in the original story? The ending is when MILYA finds you ARL and puts into the game as a little... But she's dead. Seems like we're getting more and more intense instead. Somebody actually learned a tree around on my side. Deep inside the building, huh? In darkest places, so carefully. Suddenly I felt something cold on my neck very gently. I realized that I started driving. Here was start. So far nothing new. Since when I wonder? Yeah, where the blood? Now they're banging. It seemed to change actually, so harsh and unpleasant, and those sounds mixing together with the footnote. Yeah, deep red. Capture. Let's go. I talk about face. Yeah, привет, this time. Following the rhythm of her groans, blood bubbles formed in my throat, and then tenderness. Yeah, remember this. It was a pleasant footstep. I slowly pressed the blade against his throat. Member. Good. And the travel zone in the remember this part. Suddenly a lot of vigorous to call it sitting for maritime through the coming back street. And coming from the moon in my head. When I got home, yet nothing happened. It's a week passed, then I heard what MILYA had died. It apparently was such a brutal accident, it wasn't possible to identify her. She was so deformed, her face didn't even look like one anymore. Okay. There's nothing further to say about MILYA. I won't say anything more. Then please let me meet with her already. I'm her friend after all. We are. Yeah, you see, it was all the first person single. And in that last sentence, it's turned into we are. Interesting. What does it say that to us? I'm not sure. Yeah, let's meet again at that cafe. And also, the fact that they're saying, let's meet again in that cafe. It implies that this is something that is going to make them meet again in the cafe. Maybe, like, you know, killing another MILYA follower is making the story repeat. That's how it's happening. Okay, this one is new too. This one is new too. Okay, this one is definitely new. Definitely new. I was bewildered, even though I've seen her until just now. I've seen her face, my brain, my hands. They couldn't come to draw her face at all. It was odd, something like that shouldn't have happened. Once again, I raised my gaze into the girl sitting on the chair. Maybe that's a police officer that came to, you know, draw the scene of crime. I suppose there's people who sneered when they saw the flustered reaction of the field investigators. You can argue it was just a temporary paranoia caused by confusion. If that was the case, so be it. My concerns are centered on the improvisement of the health of the responsibles of and the obvious signs of symptoms. We will be always waiting for you in that cafe. We want to see you already. Happy birthday. At a glance I saw she's quite a beautiful girl. Her pale skin, her dark hair and dress, her stark contrast between them. As for myself, I like drawing very much, so I thought she could be the subject of my art. So I called out for her to ask. We heard that groan and suddenly started to feel so terrible. I was preparing to leave, but she started heading inside. Giving a small smile, she listened to my words and cheerfully accepted my request. And then, when I suggested we headed to my studio, she said she knew of a more lovely place, and she took my hand. We started heading somewhere. I don't want to know any more than this about her. Are you listening? Please pay attention to this before she devours all of my thoughts. Are you listening? It was coming with me for a while. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't remember her face. The face of my friend. This story is like compilation of a lot of other stories. She's harmless. Hey, what's he talking about? Do you understand anything he's saying? Of course I don't. Is the microphone broken? We'll check that later. Also, please turn the picture around. I guess we will not be able... it will not be that good of a painting, though. What's he saying makes no sense. It's not like this is important in a way. What even the point of continuing this? I don't know. Well, I guess we'll stop if nothing interesting happens. There's something about this that worries me, you know? Isn't it just because it's too weird to think I mistook you for square square? What did you just say? Although she was my friend, her name... Yes, her name was MILYA. MILYA. Considering that, please think I'm saying. Do you really think the phenomenon observed during the recent weeks is nothing but mass paranoia? Poke lolrust, he's a VTuber, yeah, he is. I mean, he's also developing game, but he's VTubing as well. I'm certain that people who first displayed the symptoms didn't enter inside the cafe, and they were not told any information regarding the place in the talks. When that is considered, it's clear that something abnormal is occurring. I'm convinced the settling of the in our brain has started. No, he's not. He's playing cool games. And I realized it has started raining. I raised my hand in a surprise as the drops ran through my back, only to find the sky hidden by the clouds. The forest was dark, the sky was grey, and the rain was white. The sky looked incredibly gloomy, as if the rain has drained all of the color out of it. Yeah, he is. He's Japanese though, so... I was watching him, he's really cool. In fact, he was one of the people who, you know... kind of made me want to be a VTuber, because, I mean, you see... the fact that he's, you know, mostly a game creator than a VTuber, and that he shares his development, shares the games that inspire him, that's kind of cool. But I've heard my friends talking about something like that. Somehow, it was such a strange story. I still remember some parts of it. I couldn't really understand what they were talking about, and they said things like, what did the groaning sound like? What did her face look like? Oh, that's a new one. I got scared and untangled her arms and escaped from the room, and then I ran away. And then a week later, I heard she died. And apparently it was such a brutal incident, it wasn't possible to identify her. She was so deformed, her face didn't look like one anymore. You know, a game you should try, if you didn't already. Who's Lila? A game when you play as a sociopath and have to adjust his face up there. Oh, that's really cool. Is it free? Let me check it. Who's Lila? Oh, I've seen it. Maybe we'll play it next. But also, I've got recommended a lot of stuff. Since the priority of this affair has been deemed low, it's uncertain when the next enquiries will be done. Outer simulation game. I want MILYA to always smile and always surprise everybody. What is it? About that girl? I don't know much. I don't even know where she lives. They want to talk to me to talk about her. If I do it, you will let me go back then. Understood. If I do, you will let me go back then. Understood. MILYA, are you there? Pretty much, yeah. You can make quite psycho faces, sometimes unintentionally. She slowly hung the coat she had worn on the wall hook and sat down on the chair in the center of the cafe. Then she skillfully brewed some black tea and poured some to me. When she drank black tea, she always took apple jam with it, and on cold days she drank it with a small amount of vodka. Она безвредна. Она... Yeah, she's... How do... I don't know how to translate. People help me. She's, fuck. I don't know how to translate безвредна. Вредно. No. No. It's more like, you know, doesn't mean harmless, yeah. Harmless, yeah. Vred is like... Hold on. Oh, okay. Harmless, yeah, she's harmless. I'm harmless. She's harmless. She's harmless. And one more person. Она безвредна, она безвредна. Yes, there's nothing further to say about MILYA. I won't say anything more. So then, please let me meet with her already. I'm her friend, after all. It's because of you that I've been talking up until now. We are your... MILYA. Our old groans continued unchanged. On the contrary, it seemed like they were getting more and more insane instead. Intense. As I listened carefully to that voice, I realized the sound was coming from the basement. I would never have guessed this place had a basement. Neither would somebody would actually be there. A bad premonition ran as a shiver ran down my spine. Happy birthday, we made this story for you. Confirmation of... I'm talking on your behalf. I'm talking to everyone about you. I can feel you being born. I can feel you growing bigger. This freaking wriggling feeling inside of me feels so pleasant. You're still fondling me, aren't you? With your arms, your fingers, your mouth, your tongue. Every time you touch my body, every time I feel that sensation, I feel more and more in love with you. And yet I can't remember your face. So irritating, so painful. I feel overwhelmed by complex feelings, and all I can think is you. If I could just touch you, I'm sure my hands would extend towards your cheeks first. If you were to look around, you'd see everybody craving for you, just like me, going somewhere. You know, if you were to look around, and in those first stories, we hear that she heard the tumbling, you know, footsteps behind her. Are you wondering where those feet of mine are heading? I'm sure they're moving on their own to meet you. As I talk of your story once again, their girly figures, as they do nothing but walk, look so beautiful and yet so empty. They look exactly just like your face. I'm your friend, we are your friends. We're now heading to see you. Oh, that sound is new. Hey, what's he talking about? Do you understand what he's saying? Of course I don't. Is the microphone broken? Oh, we'll check that later. Also, please turn the picture around. I guess it will be not that good of painting though. What he's saying makes no sense. It's not like this important in a way. What's even the point of continuing this? I don't know. Well, I guess I'll stop if nothing interesting happens. There's something about this that worries me, you know? Isn't it just because it's too weird to think I mistook you for... What did you just say? Yeah, we heard it. Reading regarding any further intervention should be avoided. I think our attitude in addressing the problem is overly optimistic. Yeah, we already read it. Not with a pro-temporal component and responsibilities are obvious signs of fixed symptoms. Okay. Considering that, please rethink what I'm saying. Do you really think the phenomena observed during the recent weeks is nothing but mass paranoia? I'm certain the people who first displayed those symptoms did not enter inside the cafe, and they were not told any information regarding that place in the talks. When that is considered, it's clear that something abnormal is occurring. I'm convinced the settling of the in our brain has started. Please listen carefully to what I'm saying. I'm not telling any joke. I think our attitude when addressing this problem is overly optimistic. I'm certain people who first displayed those symptoms did not enter inside of the cafe. She's observing us. We did not enter inside of the cafe. She's eating us like a maggot crawling inside of the rotting brain. I don't want to know any more than this about her. Are you listening? Please pay attention to this before she devours all of my thoughts. Whose sweet lord girl is this? Yours. Your mom's. Are you listening? Okay, this one is new location. Let's see. Her body was slender, and her skin was so pale. She was such a pretty girl, and she looked like so gorgeous in her dresses. My throat. Oh fuck. I've disappeared for a second. The old growths continued unchanged. On the contrary, it seemed that they were getting more and more intense instead. As I listened carefully to that voice, I realized that sound was coming from the basement. I would never guess this place has a basement, neither that somebody would actually be here. A bad premonition ran as a shiver ran down my spine. Delusional VTuber plays delusional game. Milочка. Milочка. Last time we met was about 2 weeks before she passed away. That day I made a promise that I would meet MILYA at the cafe. That place was always so quiet. During the times we met there together, we always stayed for a long time at the cafe, chatting restfully while drinking black tea. The cafe was inside of a forest and built in a quiet place. Since people hardly visited, it was an exception of ourselves. We even enjoyed ourselves here. I wonder what's wrong with me. I can't remember her face. The face of my friend. MILYA, what you're looking at? Yeah, it was said 3 weeks before. It said 3 weeks before, and now it's 2 weeks. I'll sleep now. Good night. Good night, Kani. I hope it was fun. Yeah, did we already seen this? Keep the stream up and have my nightmares. I think it's beginning of the game, like it was the end of the game. Like that sounds like a first story. We'll see. Неделька. No, it's not. Mm-hmm. I think on the first story it said огонек or something like this. We'll see, we'll see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I left the game in like Lincoln on rabbit hole, which may as well be my hole at this point. Your hole. Kani made it for you. I took away the Calippo. You can take his holes. He will like it. And suddenly, from the depths, concealing the crimes. Interesting. Interesting. And so far it's repeating the first time. Saying this sick is going to go snooze, have a fun time with it. Yeah. Go have a nice nap, nice dream. Okay, the same. I think there was a... some kind of 25th frame, I guess. I really like the sound design in this game. I like it so much. And there's so much details in the sound, so much interesting sounds. Does anybody knows this piece? Let's see the instruction. Maybe there is something written in the instruction. Like I said, I haven't cleared this game because I'm not sure if you can even do this, to be honest. I'm not sure if you can clear this game at all. Let me see. Read me. After translation. Warning. No, suddenly I'm not a music head. It's okay. Contact. Plugins used. Orchestra. Ah, yeah, it's Rachmaninoff. Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto number 2. I think that's the background music. Ooh! That's new one. Why are you threatening me as if I was ill? There's nothing wrong with me. I can walk. I can talk. Please let me go back already. There's something out to do. Was it about that girl? I don't know that much. I don't know where she lives. Do you want me to talk about her? If I do it, will you let me go back then? Understood. First time I met her, it was about 2 weeks ago. Where did I met her? I met her in a place like forest, or a place like a back alley. At a glance I saw she's quite a beautiful girl. Her pale skin, her dark hair and dress, the stark contrast between them. As for myself, I like drawing very much, so I thought she could be the subject of my art, and I called out for her to ask. No, it's not. The second one. The second one is, and it's absolutely unplayable. In my opinion, like, I'm thinking of you know, trying to translate it from Japanese and use Niku to, you know, for sanity check. Given a small smile, she listened to my words and cheerfully accepted my request. Thus, when I suggested we head into my studio, she said she knew a more lovely place, and she took my hand and we started heading somewhere. I was ready to compliment this. Yeah. It's not machine translated, it was translated by human, that's why it's playable. And second one, I really want to play it, but I don't want to ruin the experience, you know? Because, like, machine translation is really fucking bad. As she entwined her white, long, slender fingers between my own, and I observed her figure from the behind as she walked nonchalantly, somehow I felt a mysterious feeling wrapping my whole body. It was like my sense of reality was gradually fading before my eyes, and I was here heading somewhere unlike anywhere else. It was a mysterious sort of feeling. Being with her like this, I want us to walk forever together. That's what I thought. That's a new piece of information. After walking for a while, we finally arrived at a building that looked like a cafe. My first impression was that the inside looked gloomy and a little ruined. When I stepped inside, there was no other than me there. Silent as death, it was just like an abandoned building. And yet, there was nothing but one noise coming from somewhere else, mixed with the sound of churning. Yeah. That's it. I really like esoteric, cause again, there was some stairs that lead further inside to the basement. As she swung her hair, she looked at me and laughed relaxedly, and she led me into the other side of the door. Noticing my distraction, she asked me with a worried voice, "Ты в порядке?" and placed her hand on my cheeks, which means, "Are you okay?" The odd sensation of her cold hands on my cheeks made me come back to my senses, and I apologized to say, "Sorry, I remembered why we came here." I took out some art supplies from my bag and made her sit on a chair. Sit on a chair, just like when she died. That day, I managed to draw lines with such ease I've never done before, and the carbon slowly started to reflect some light through the shades. You need to sniff this specific wall for 3 real hours. No, it's not the manual or explained everything else. Really? If you die, you have to restart the whole game, by the way. Really? It's kind of cool. What was this? I want to be a deranged. I want to be. Fuck me. I want to be a VTuber known for playing a deranged games. Nobody. This kind of Kusage. Is it existing Kusage? Because if it is existing Kusage, please give me Tower the Draga and Japan PC. I could try playing those kind of stuff. Honestly, I bet it would be really tiring, but it's okay. That day, I managed to draw lines with such an ease I've never done before, and the carbon slowly started to reflect some light through its shades. It happened when I had finished the outline of the drawing and had started working on the details. I suddenly felt my sauce and my brush coming to stop. and then he killed her. I was bewildered, even though I've never seen her just until now. I've seen her face, my brain, my hand. I couldn't come to draw her face at all. It was odd, something like that shouldn't have happened. Once again, I raised my gaze on the girl sitting on the chair. Really? Please give me. If you can, DM me on Discord. Or post it on the rabbit hole. She was laughing. I realized her thin red lips looked crooked like a twitch. Dragon Slayer. Yeah, basically, give me a real, like, you know, the rabbit hole. I'm out of Discord. Okay. I think you were in Discord, aren't you? But you got out of it, I guess. Fuck, I couldn't see. Yeah. What happened to that painting? Yes, I still have it. I will show it to you now. It's still unfinished. I must finish it as soon as possible. Oh, and that's her name. Doctor? Are you alright? What are you? So maybe he created a painting that is kind of spreading like a virus, like a mental virus. Yes, thank you very much. About that cafe. Something about it felt odd. It wasn't because there wasn't anyone here, or because it was gloomy. I just felt like something would creep inside any moment. It wasn't some sensation in my body or my mind. Yes, it was more like a déjà vu. I actually said déjà vu, being closer and closer to happening. Also, it felt like something unthinkably disgusting. It was that kind of feeling. Holy shit, I can't fucking... Okay. Why you out? Yeah. Naughty fruit. A real question. I went to that establishment only a few days ago. I heard from my friends that something about a cafe existed inside of my forest. That friend, nothing special, just my friend. I don't know how she came to know about this cafe. She said it was a rumor, but I've never heard of such rumor from people other than her. Still, that rumor turned out to be real, and the cafe really was inside of the forest. Although it was still daytime, inside it looked so dark, and much older than what I've been told. I could hear music playing softly. In my memory doesn't fail, I think it was Chorne. I had the impression that someone had been there. Just until a while ago. She slowly hung the coat she had worn on the wall hood and sat down on a chair in the center of the cafe. Then she skillfully brewed some black tea and poured some to me. When she drank black tea, she always looked to grape jam with it, and all cold days she drank it with small amounts of vodka. Excuse me? Yes, sir, I'm talking about my friend. We were only 2 people who had come to this cafe. Is something the matter? Yeah, that's right, yes. After we spent a few moments talking, I heard some weird sounds, as if something heavy was being dragged around, and groans. They were coming from further inside of the building. When we heard that groan, I suddenly started to feel so terrible. I swear to leave, but she started heading inside. And the wall wasn't covered in the blood before, I think. I could hear that groan gradually become more intense, just like cries. For some reason I couldn't see her face well as she started to advance towards her inner part of the cafe. Even now I still can't see her face. As we followed the groan, I found a door that went down to the basement. And when I did, a weird smell filled my nostrils. It was like a fragrance of flowers, but it also stunk like rust. It was a very strange smell. It seems to be someone inside the room. Then, when I stepped forward, it happened. A pain ran through my shoulder. Somebody had stepped in a knife in my back. I fell onto the floor. Rust self-insert, yeah. Surprise! She extended her hand and touched my cheek. And then she said, "Dobro utro." I got scared and untangled her arms and escaped from the room. And then I ran away. And then a week later, I've heard she died. Apparently, it was such a brutal incident. It was impossible to identify her. She was deformed, her face didn't even look like one anymore. Pranked. It's just a prank, bro. Don't worry. I ran away. It's the truth. I'm not lying. I'm speaking on her behalf. I'm not lying. And I tell this, MILYA. Yes, let's meet again in that cafe. Milочка, happy birthday. Oh, this one is new. You're treating me as if I was ill. There's nothing wrong with me. I can walk, I can talk. Please let me go already. There's something I have to do. Elevator, eh? What is this about that girl? I really don't know much. I don't even know where she lives. I don't want to talk about her. If I do it, will you let me to go back then? Understood. First time I met her, it was about 2 weeks ago. Where did I met her? I met her in a place like a forest or a place like back alley. I glanced and saw she's quite a beautiful girl. At her pale skin, her dark hair and clothes, the stark contrast between them. As for myself, I like drawing very much, so I thought she could be a subject of my art. So I started calling out to her and asked. Okay, I think that's going to repeat. I think it's going to repeat. It was like my sense of reality was gradually fading, yeah, somewhere unlike anywhere else, this mysterious sort of feeling. Being with her like this, I want us to walk forever together, that's what I thought. There was a stairs that led further inside to the basement, and she swung her hand, she looks like at me, and laughed relaxedly. Yeah, like we already read it. Hmm. So I think that it's the painting. I think it's the painting. I can feel it being born. It's like a thoughts of this person as he's drawing the painting. I guess. And about who killed her, I guess it's this guy then. Because he met with her 2 weeks ago. Unlike the girl testimony that killed her in the end. Because she met her 3 weeks ago. And after that she didn't know what happened. I don't know, maybe. Interesting. Uh-huh. I'm very inside the forest. I saw it. Yeah, I think we've seen this one. Yeah, I think at this point I'm going to skip everything that we've seen. So like we can talk meanwhile, I guess. Yeah, we've seen this one. Okay. Because I don't know how to... this is a new location, I think. Maybe... I'll give it... half an hour. Or like 20 minutes more. And then we'll move to something else. Because I'm going to be honest, reading... it's really beautiful, but also a bit tiring. You'd think a rainforest cafe wouldn't be a very yeah, that's only you who think like this. You're all base people. Oh, holy shit, I got scared because I forgot. I forgot that this was happening. Like, I've got distracted and then the sound that... Did you know that the... Can you guess what is the loudest sound you can possibly give in anywhere? Think of what would be the loudest sound. Like, imagine you're making a movie or you're making a game. What would be the loudest sound? Maybe a sound startup. Nah. The answer is more of the metaphorical one. The 6 yeah, answer is more of a metaphorical. But also, yeah, that's also right. The loudest sound. I guess you have relaxed on the pot. There we are. I'll be next to you with my hands here. I'll be always together inside the forest or even below the ground. The loudest sound is the silence. I can't remember your face as good as I wish, but it probably is because I couldn't see it from where I started. Doesn't matter if you don't have eyes. I'm here. We're telling a story for you. We'll always be waiting for you in that cafe. We want to see you already. Happy birthday. So yeah. The loudest sound is silence, because there's nothing louder than when you hear sound and then you hear no sound. Like imagine you're watching a movie, there's something going on, and then suddenly no sound. So I think the good sound design is knowing where to be silent. Knowing where to don't, you know, when to not have sound. Where to not have anything. How to combine the dynamics of silence and loudness. That's what a good sound design to me is. It's because you can't feel the same emotion for a long time in the same way. It just doesn't work like this. To keep viewer feeling the same feeling of intensity, you have to combine the emotions, combine the loudness, combine the, a lot of stuff. That's what I think. And this game is so good in regards of sound. It's actually insanely good. Oh, that's a new one. So yeah, I think like every gets new. Yeah, it's more visible with from the side, because I'm trying to yeah. This we already seen. Oh fuck. I was yawning. Put your hands on the table. Interesting. Uh-huh. Where I read this? Building as a haunted place. Well, it could be like, the officials found out the real cause of this anomaly, and like let's tell this building is haunted, so nobody would come here, and put the case under the rug, and people will be, wow, haunted things. It's really cool. It's really cool. It's haunted ass. Stop talking about your ass. What's happening, guys? Smash that likes button. I've smashed it. Lots and lots is happening. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. You look away and your ass is gone. You look away, today we're checking out this haunted building. Smash that like button, and but before we have to talk about our sponsors, Raid Shadow Legends. In Raid Shadow Legends, you can see the fucking 15% off for all the new items and heroes. Wow, and if you're going to get to level 40, you're going to be able to play with me. Yes, I've played Shadow Legends. I am playing Raid Shadow Legends. I love Raid Shadow Legends. Anyways, back to the haunted building. That's a haunted building in which there was a haunted painting, and there was a weird case that caused mass paranoia, and I don't know, and people were looking like a Raid's shadowy haunted house legends, yeah. And there was a girl that looked like she was possessed by a demon. And there was a murder that happened some time ago. It's kind of insane. It had a ghost. Oh my god. How did this happen? Let's find out. Oh no, it looks like those walls are breathing. We should... I don't know, I've never watched those haunted things. Let's visit this place at 3 a.m. and see if the rumors are true. Oh shit. There was some street to relax with you. Yeah, that was already happening. Sorry. That they managed to draw lines of such ease I've never done before. Yeah, we already read this one. Uh-huh. Yeah, I still have it. I'll show it to you. Let's look at the painting. I see that there are flowers and what looks like the girls screaming radical racial slurs to not get milked or content. He thought he outplayed the funny con. Yeah, that's the thought of me. And that's her name. Yeah, 8 more minutes and then we're finishing. Teacup jump scare. Teacups are scary. What if there's something bad inside, like poison? Okay, I think we missed the new piece of information. Not scary. Haha, I put it here myself, not scary. It's scary that you would put poison in your own cup. The girl was a sharp injury in her throat. It was a general state of confusion. She had been put under custody. And there we are, I'll be next to you with my hair. Information of... Yeah, the girl with his throat injured is the new information, I think. Somebody tried to escape and were lost. Well, when they entered said place, they were attacked by somebody, tried to escape, and eventually were lost inside the forest. Well, we're always together inside the forest or below the ground. I'm not sure. I got scared, untangled her arms, and escaped from the room, and then I ran away. And then, a week later, I heard she died. Apparently it was such a brutal, yeah. As she entwined her white, long, slender fingers between my own, and I observed her figure from behind. She walked nonchalantly somehow. I felt a mysterious feeling wrapping my whole body. It was like my sense of reality had gradually fading before my eyes, and I was heading somewhere like somewhere else. It was a mysterious sort of feeling. But with her, like this, I want us to walk forever together. That's what I saw. I won that establishment only a few days ago. I heard from my friend something about the cafe existing inside the forest. What friend? Nothing special, just my friend. I don't know how she came to know about that cafe. She always said it was a rumor. But I never heard such a rumor from people other than her. Still, that rumor turned out to be real, and that cafe really was inside of the forest. Be with your kinship fancy, be with your god's girlfriend. Although it was still daytime, inside it looked so dark, much older than I've been told. About that cafe? That cafe has something about it felt odd. Because there was nowhere anyone there, or because it was gloomy, or just felt like someone would creep inside at any moment. It wasn't some sensation in my body or mind. Yes, it was more like deja vu. I occasionally felt said deja vu being closer and closer to happening. Also, it felt like something unthinkably disgusting. It was that kind of feeling. I was like a cafe. Maybe. Suddenly, all in the front of my eyes turned red. The blood gushed out vigorously, covering my face. It felt really scared, so I rushed out to the store, and as soon as I could, I felt the store promptly, running through the basement. I felt so many times, and my blood coming out from the wounds on my hand. When I got home, I hid inside the sheds, trembling and waiting for the morning to come, wondering if those footsteps would follow me, wondering if they would come and attack me, and yet nothing happened. Forest Pay Doctor. Поздравляю. Congratulations. That's also new information. Yes, thank you very much. That was a new information, definitely. About that cafe? That cafe has something about, yeah. Oh my god, my throat. My throat. Cafe exists inside of the forest. Yeah, natürlich. Yeah. It was still daytime inside of, Неделька. Yeah, we already read this. Slowly hung the coat. Hold on. I like this, yeah. It's so terrible preparing to leave, but she started heading inside. I could hear this groan gradually becoming more intense, just like cries. And the door and went down to the basement. It's like fragrance of flowers, but also stink like rust. Как дела? New one. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I just wanted to try other keyboard things. Okay, and with that being said, for now, we will finish with this game because it's really beautiful and I'm losing attention for the details, and that's one of those things that you should have. Okay, last one. Especially considering this one is not too long. I wonder where you are right now. I guess you have a reluctant look on your face, but whenever you are, I'll be next to you with my hands here. We'll be always together inside the forest or even below the ground. I can't remember your face as good as I wish, but it's probably because I couldn't see it from the very start. Doesn't matter if you don't have your eyes. I'm here, we're telling a story for you. You will be always wanting you in that cafe. We want to see you already. Happy birthday. Okay, happy birthday to people who have birthday today. That concludes the story for today. What do you think of it? I've understood much more when I was playing alone because, you know, streaming is kind of interesting. Yeah, I also think it's really interesting. I really like this game and its aesthetics. And its creator is really nice too. So, that being said, I wanna make myself a coffee. And after that, let's go do something. We could chat for a bit, and after that, we'll see.